Welcome everybody to Player Profiler News Primetime Friday. It's Friday, and Chev is on his way. Um, Thank you for watching the show. Hopping in here, we can answer any questions you have. Just jump in the chat, drop your cues, and we're here for it. We got the comments heating up already. Let's get it. Thank you to us. Yeah. Before we get the show started, I do want to take a moment. I want to take a moment of gratitude. Um, I know a lot of you aren't involved in the fantasy football or fantasy sports creator space, um, and it's not like it's easy work. It's not like it's hard work. It's more of like dream come true work. But one of the greatest things about being in this business is the good people that you come across. So I wanted to take a second and shout out some of the people. Tyler Bradley, who runs Fantasy Sports Advice Network, along with Corey. Chalk, who is one of the founders of the Undroppables, along with Jax Falcone. And I got an incredibly great voicemail message today from my boy Joe Kubatakis. And it was just very nice, and he reached out so that we could work together, that kind of thing. Had some glow up the last couple days from some pretty cool people in the industry, Dave Kluge, what have you. And I mean, my partner Mike and I, Mike Lindberg, also of the news desk, FF Connect 99, we've been grinding this out for a good year and a half together, a couple years on our own. And so I want to shout out Mike too, Schultze, Chev, who's on the way, Travis Seal over at the Undroppables, all the crew at the Undroppables, Fantasy Football Advice Network, and then especially our fearless leader right here on Player Profiler, Matt Kelly. Just such a good guy, and just really cares about the people who are doing work and presents them with lots of good opportunities. With that out of the way, let me just remind you that this show today is presented to you by Fast Draft. If you like drafting and you want to draft faster with Fast Draft. Use the code down below right there on the overlay, Booth, Booth, my last name, for a $50 deposit match. You put in $50, Fast Draft will match you $50. Origins games are $10. That's 5 free Origins games that you can win money out of if you pick the right rookies. That's 10 free Flex 4 games. So a lot of opportunities there. The app is absolutely steaming up. We're creating some great partnerships out there in the space with a lot more big, huge things to come. We launched our IDP game. The rookies are out. Guy that we're going to talk about later on today is in the Origins. He's not anywhere on Sleeper. He's not in the Flex 4, but he's not on Origins. He is, however, on Player Profiler, and we'll talk about him later. While we wait for Chev, let's get to the first question. Ladd McConkey and Zay Flowers or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Depending on your build, depending on whether it's dynasty or redraft, depending on whether it's an 8-team league, 10-team league, 12-team league, 32-team league, we'll throw a 16-team league in there. I'm going to go with the Ladd McConkey. But, context is key, Buy and sell you. What's up? How you doing? Fellas, so far it's just one of us. Waiting on Chev before I get to the news. We did have some breaking news today that we'll get to. Breaking news yesterday. So, it is the dead period. It is the doldrums of the football season, but that doesn't mean that things aren't happening. Things are popping. And we'll get to most of those in a bit. Chev is having a lot of trouble. I just saw, part of it is I was involved in talking to you folks, and I didn't see the text that he sent. So I am going to get him in here real quick. Great show, guys. Thanks. Appreciate it. Jamie, what's up, dude? May have gotten, well, I reached out to a guy that followed me today, who he already does a Browns podcast, and I tried to recruit him. So shout out to you and all of you Browns fans, and sorry about Shador. Happy Hudson, we still appreciate you keeping it live. Yeah, that's what I do. You know how I roll. I'd be burning it down. Senior in the fast draft yesterday, taking Bowers right before me. Yeah. Legendary podcast knower. Woohoo. Yeah, you gotta move fast if you want to take Bowers fast. All right, Chev is here. What's going on, man?
Oh, technology and whatnot. It's super cool when it works. The way that it doesn't work, it's awesome.
It's super cool the way that it works when it doesn't work. Wiser words have never been spake.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you know me.
All right.
Legendary wordsmith.
Now that you are here, let's get into the breaking news of the day. Our top story. This is news that when it came across the wire today, it shook the NFL world asunder to its foundations. I'm talking about the retirement of Tennessee Titans legend Julio Jones. He officially announced his retirement today.
Well, it's very courteous of him to notify us that he's retired, as opposed to doing what he's done for the last 4 years and just being on an NFL roster and not telling us that he's retired.
I thought he was waiting for somebody to tell him he was retired.
Well, I mean, fair enough.
Maybe somebody did in the Titans was he with the Eagles this time?
That's a great question. I feel like he was with the Eagles this past year.
And not to quibble, Happy Hudson, but Titans legend. Thanks.
Yeah.
He was with the Bucks, according to Jamie. All right. We do have quite a bit of news to get to. In the land of rookies, there was a guy that I had my eye on going into the Senior Bowl, simply because whenever I was kind of trying to watch for Cam Ward throughout the college season, I would be distracted and then hear Xavier Restrepo with a catch. Xavier Restrepo with a catch, just over and over again. I didn't really watch him per se, but I did hear his name called over and over again whenever I had a Miami game on. Went out to the Senior Bowl and watched him, and athletically, he looked like he was running with cement blocks on his feet. Didn't look good. So he kind of tumbled down my guys to watch board. I was, instantly out is a good way to say it. And then he didn't do great at the combine. And then he had a really, really bad pro day a week ago. He was kind of one of those guys that people were talking about going into the draft season. And especially because people watch a lot of Cam Ward doing their due diligence and their homework, and they saw a lot of Xavier Restrepo. And it's the kind of guy that's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. What is your take on this spring and winter rookie season, and what Xavier Restrepo has done to his draft status?
Well, I mean, it's clear when you turn on the tape that this is a guy that can play football. However, the testing and everything that you pointed out and alluded to over the course of the last 2 months has basically borne itself out to be true. You said he looked like he was moving in cement blocks at the Senior Bowl when he was running routes, and he comes out and runs a 4.83. Now, he did come out and say that he was dealing with some hamstring tightness, and he just wanted to push through it and compete anyway. But I also don't know how much I buy that. I mean, how much higher of he was a 4.6 guy in my mind, no matter what. He's just very, very laterally quick and agile. He's a guy that's great in and out of his breaks. He's not a burner. He's never been that. So I can't put too much stock in the 40. It is alarming that he ran a 4.83, but if it's explained by hamstring tightness, and we'll forgive Gunnar Helm for that abomination that he put on display at the combine. We've got to give Xavier Restrepo a reprieve as well. I'm more concerned with the one thing that you let off with in looking like he was running with cement boots on at the Senior Bowl. That's what concerns me, is when we get into the nitty-gritty of it, the football stuff, does he look like he belongs? And that to me says, oh, well, no, I'm not really sure about that. Is he a guy that was great at the collegiate level? Yes, without question. He now holds the all-time receptions record and I believe the yardage record for the University of Miami. And if you know anything about ball, you know the type of receivers that have graced that program with their presence. So he can play football. And we might be looking at a dip just in his price. And I'm totally in on that, potentially, depending on the landing spot. So, he could be a value. I don't know. I mean, he hasn't really been on my radar because there's other guys I like in his range every single time.
Right.
So, yeah, I can't put too much stock in the 40 because that was never his profile. It's like us telling everyone, hey, Trey Harris isn't going to run a fantastic 40. And he goes out and doesn't run a fantastic 40. And everybody's like, well, he didn't run a fantastic 40. Me and bigz told you that for months.
Right.
So, yeah, see, your dog agrees with me.
Yeah. So, okay. Speaking of kind of guys in that range, another guy who got the opposite. So he got really steamed. Restrepo kind of fell at the Senior Bowl and in the combine. Jack Besh has been steamed up.
Oh, Beshy boy.
I want to say Besh is a couple inches taller. Besh has the player profiler comp for Besh is Joshua Palmer. The player profiler comp for Xavier Restrepo is KJ Osborne. Now, when I watch Restrepo, the kind of receiver he is, I think of like a small, short, slow Michael Crabtree. He's going to be a guy that is going to secure the ball. He's going to be able to like hit the boundary. He's going to be able to run like shallow in patterns. But not a whole lot more than that. Last year we had slot guy Ladd McConkey who absolutely tore things up.
May I interject?
Yeah, go for it.
Ladd McConkey was so much more than just a slot guy. He got labeled a slot guy because he's an exciting one, and his comp is much closer to Garrett Wilson, if we're being totally honest, and removing exciting factors out of the factor.
Right. Well, all I'm saying is that
I wasn't disagreeing with you. I'm just saying
right.
I wanted to accentuate that point as well.
McConkey's stock in trade was his ability to catch passes on what was looked at as a limited route tree and a limited number of receptions. Now you have two profiles where you have McConkey coming out and everybody is kind of slandering him because he didn't have a whole lot of reps at Georgia. And then Restrepo is the exact opposite. He is the all-time program leader in receptions. I think we can both agree that they're not in the same class of receiver. But Besh does have a similar game to McConkey. But he's got that Josh Palmer comp. And I really, really see it. Like wide receiver 3 ceiling, like a guy that you're going to waiver at the end of a season when there's been some injury attrition, that kind of guy. Do you see Restrepo being more than that at any point?
No, it's going to take. It would take. So it's the quintessential slot role. That's what it would take. It would take him being Julian Edelman and having a quarterback that is willing to hyper target the slot. That is the absolute ceiling for me, in my opinion. I mean, more to me, he kind of moves like Kyle Phillips, Tennessee Titans legend Kyle Phillips, and Super Bowl champion Kyle Phillips.
Las Vegas Raiders legend Kyle Phillips.
So that's what I see, and that's really difficult for me to unsee.
Okay.
I think that Besh, because of his his physical prowess and profile, and the way that he's shown that he can attack the ball in the air, the comps are much more. I still think Josh Palmer's good. I just think that Ladd McConkey was better. Like, I put my eggs in the Josh Palmer basket last year, and I had to eat a lot of egg. Had a lot of egg on my face because of that. But I think Ladd was just better. I think Josh, when given volume, I mean, he had an 800-yard season or 769 yards when he was targeted over 100 times. So he's not a bad football player.
Right.
I think that Besh could be. I think Besh might be able to be a little bit better because he's a better 50-50 contested catch guy. Now, that does require you to go somewhere where there's a quarterback that has the carte blanche to throw back shoulder fades and 50-50 balls like that. So, I mean, Besh is likely. I mean, we're so what? Let me ask you this. Let me pose a Jamie. That's funny. That's good. Yeah, we put that up there. Did we put it up there? I think that for Besh, it's let me pose a question to you. Where do you think Besh ends up? Like, what kind of capital do you think he ends up getting? And that kind of will tell me what the path to success looks like for him.
I think it's going to shake out that he's going to be a back end third, early fourth guy, and I think Restrepo is going to be in the same range. I think they're both in the wide receiver 7 to 12 area.
Okay. So if that's the case, then just based on historic hit rates, it's going to be an upset. But I do think I would bet on Jack Besh and his physical profile to win more times than I would Xavier Restrepo. Because Besh can win on big end breakers and 50-50 balls, whereas it's going to be short areas, choice routes for Xavier Restrepo.
And we know that he can do that. We know that he does have some separation skills. So those kind of third down, short, like third and short kind of situations, I think he's going to excel in. But I don't think he's going to be a primary target.
His value will be infinitely more to a franchise quarterback than it ever will be for our silly little fantasy games.
Sure. Yeah. And I think we can say the same thing about Josh Palmer. Let me kind of move a little bit. So it's one of those things where, and I've talked about it on shows before, where baseball scout goes out to watch a pitcher, kid takes him deep twice, and all of a sudden they're looking at this 6'4" first baseman. Similar to the Restrepo thing, going to watch Cam Ward and hearing Restrepo's name all over the place, diving into Restrepo, and that revealing some things about Cam Ward. One of the guys that I've been pumping a lot in redraft is Calvin Ridley. If I look at the catchable ball rate that Restrepo was given last year from Cam Ward, what that translates to for Calvin Ridley, if he is the primary target in the Titans offense, is a good 30 plus receptions added to what his total was last year, simply because of the fact that they will have a quarterback that can get him the ball. So how high are you on Cam Ward? How confident are you that he can be that person for Calvin Ridley versus what he did with Restrepo at Miami, considering the fact that ACC defenses are not quite NFL defenses?
Right. I think you have to factor in. You've got to factor in who the play caller that he's going to be with, and that plays a huge role. And Brian Callahan showed a propensity to move Calvin Ridley around the formation, whereas in Jacksonville he was just lined up at the X. He got more usage like his last couple years in Atlanta before he took his mental health break and then the suspension. And I think that those things lend themselves to success. Now, to answer your question about Cam Ward, I've been in them Cam Ward trenches because I wanted to make sure that we weren't just, sometimes people just do stuff just to do it. And I think that Cam Ward is going to be a fine franchise quarterback. He has the thing, to me, that I want when it gets hectic. It seems like the game slows down just a beat. He's not a guy that's going to be able to beat you with physical prowess per se. It's his mind is functioning at a half a tick faster than the defense, and he can see things a half a tick faster. He's able to throw with anticipation. I saw Mina Kimes put out a tweet the other day about his QBR on third downs and when pressured, I believe. And his QBR was like 95, and that's on a scale of 100, not to be confused with passer rating, which goes to 158.3. And there's some other ones. I'm going to see if I can find it, and I'll post it on either the Profiler Now X or my personal account at Chev90. It's no, it's not on there anywhere. But anywho, it going back and looking at it, it seems like he's kind of a wild horse, like a wild card, but he plays within structure really well. It's just that they had to score so many points. You talked about ACC defenses. They had the worst ACC defense. So if they weren't going to score 30 points a game, they weren't going to win. And so him having to take more risk and take more chances, and I go back and I look at, obviously, we've gone back and forth about the Cal game where he threw just that god-awful interception over the middle, the pick six, but he only threw 6 more interceptions the entire season.
Right.
To 39 touchdowns. So I think that he's going to be equipped. You've seen, if you haven't kept up with it, you've seen the Titans have gone out and spent $82 million on a left tackle, moved our fifth overall pick in 2024 to right tackle where he played in college and was dominant. And we signed Kevin Zeitler. So they're putting the pieces in place to where he can at least survive in the pocket and have time to go through his progressions. And even if it breaks down, I still trust him there because, again, it's not like Will Levis where I was just praying that he didn't throw the ball to the other team. I'm confident that when structure breaks down, he's still able to find a secondary play and make a play. So I'm pretty confident that he's going to be a successful NFL quarterback, especially with Brian Callahan and his track record of being able to, if not, I won't say he groomed guys because he had Matthew. One, it's weird to say groom guys in any context anyway, but he had Matthew Stafford. He's been around Matthew Stafford. He's been around Peyton Manning. He's been around a young Joe Burrow. He knows what it looks like and what the process should look like for a young guy. And so that gives me tremendous confidence that he's going to be able to imbue the things that Cam Ward needs to be successful and get off to the best start possible.
Right. And you bring up 7 interceptions, whatever. And I think one of the things that kind of gets lost in just looking at black and white numbers is nuance. And there are different levels of interception or bad plays. And this is one thing that kind of drove people crazy with Derek Carr was that he was very, very accurate, or that he is very, very accurate as a passer. And you could chalk up a good 4 or 5 interceptions on his tally per year that were balls that bounced off hands of receivers because that's just he was throwing to Foster Moreau, etc.
Right.
And then there were some plays where say you have a 3rd and long and you launch the ball down the field and it gets picked. The offense kind of looks at that as kind of a short punt, right?
Yep.
We're gonna go big or it's gonna get picked off and we're gonna flip the field.
We just saved it down, basically.
Right. We saved some time on the clock, whatever. And then on top of that, you have a situation where like Baker Mayfield was coached up to throw the ball, and in the interest of making the play, it was okay to make a mistake. And so Baker Mayfield, it used to be his MO to roll out to the right and throw an interception when he was pressured. Like that's just what he did until he cleaned that up. But in the interest of making the play, it's okay to make a mistake. On the other hand, you have a guy like an Aiden O'Connell who stands in the pocket, doesn't make mistakes, but just didn't move the ball down the field very much. And so it looks like Cam Ward is going to be able to be that guy, get out of the pocket, make a play. Even if he makes a mistake, it's still in the interest of moving the ball down the field and not necessarily playing hero ball, but being a success.
Yeah, the thing that we're looking at for young quarterbacks now is the ability to make plays outside of structure. Like, one, Joe Burrow is phenomenal, and I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that Cam Ward is going to be Joe Burrow. That would be foolish of me to say. Joe Burrow is on a Hall of Fame trajectory, whether you like it or not, no matter how you feel about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow can make a play outside of structure with two guys that are all pro level, whether you like T. Higgins or not. I mean, per game, he was awesome this year. You're just not going to ever get 17 games out of him.
Right.
He was able to make plays with those guys, and that's what makes guys next to him possible to defend. That was what Mahomes' magic was. It wasn't bombs, 70-yard bombs. It's the play being alive for 8 seconds and the defense breaking down. So I think Cam Ward has a lot of that in his game. My comp for him, honestly, was Baker Mayfield. That was what I saw a lot of, like OU Baker, before his confidence got broken in Cleveland, where quarterbacks go to die, apparently. That was what
sure.
Yeah, like that was what I saw from him. And I think that that's something that the NFL is starting to value. Like, you look at Bryce in the second half of this year, he was extending plays like crazy. He was winning from the pocket, but he was also extending plays and making plays that was what you saw, what the number one overall pick was supposed to look like. And so that's kind of my expectation, is for him to look somewhere between Baker right now and Bryce in the second half of last year.
What this conversation made me think of is Gardner Minshew scrambling around trying to make a play happen, and I thought, it's just like Lamar Jackson, only without the speed or the talent or the arm strength or the brains.
Just a whole bunch of want to and a whole lot of jorts,
but carbon copy.
Yeah.
And a better mustache. All right. So staying with wide receiver, I mean, I guess we're talking about every position, but wide receivers. There was a report that came out that Brandon Ayuk is going to be sidelined for at least the first half of the season due to his injury. Now, we saw what Juwan Jennings did when Ayuk went out, Debo was down, and Jennings had some pretty good games. There's also a lot of hype for Ricky Pearsall. And then one of my favorite guys in the draft in 2024, Jacob Cowing. Are the 49ers in trouble without Ayuk, or are they going to be able to keep the pieces together and compete? Or is the ship just sunk at this point, and they're going to find themselves in a rebuild in the next year or two?
To me, that's an outstanding question, and I think that they're going to be better than they were this year because they have some continuity returning to the building in Robert Saleh on defense, and I think that they could be fine with without Brandon Ayuk on offense, because you're going to give George Kittle had 90 targets last year, 90, and he put up 1,100 yards. So imagine what that looks like if we're giving him 115, 120, 125 targets. I think they just refocused the offense. I think this was a year where Kyle Shanahan knew, hey, I'm not going to have – this isn't going to go the way that I planned it. I lost Christian McCaffrey. They'll have Christian McCaffrey back. I think they can distribute. I wanted to say distribute. That was weird. But redistribute the targets, and they can make up for his absence. Now, is he an elite separator? Yes. Is he a dynamic run after the catch threat? Yes. They can still approximate that in like redistributing the targets between Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, with some Juwan Jennings sprinkled in, third and Juwan, and some Ricky Pearsall. And you still got the gadget plays that they're designing for Jacob Cowing. We famously heard Kyle Shanahan talk about he tried to design a trick play for Jacob Cowing, but something happened. He didn't have his helmet or something like that. And Ricky Pearsall ends up running the end around and looking like Ricky Slick Rick. So I think that Ricky Pearsall is going to play very well in 2025. He's going to have a role, but I would be betting on Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle absorbing those targets while he's gone, with Juwan Jennings popping off every now and then like he did against the Rams last year.
Okay, that's fair. I was looking for they're in a rebuild, but
I mean, listen,
but I think
they very well could be if their defense sucks the way that it did in the back half of the year. They could end up in the same position that they were. We saw them go 7-9 without their best player, which is Trent Williams, their second best player, which is Christian McCaffrey, without Dre Greenlaw for most of the season, with so many players out, they've still managed to win 6 or 7 games. So
yeah,
they're not that far off from just like they just tear it all down, you know.
Well, part of what you mentioned was the defense, and they did not play great with Dre Greenlaw, and now Dre Greenlaw isn't there anymore.
Right.
So that might be a problem.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be a positive. I can tell you that much.
Right. All right. More player movement to get to. We have Stephon Diggs finding his way to New England. He is coming off a pretty bad injury. He is a little bit longer in the tooth than a lot of other wide receivers, but we know the dearth of receiving talent in New England for Drake May, but we also know Drake May's talent level and how good he possibly can be.
Just
Stephon Diggs on the rise.
I think so. Okay, so we have to adjust our expectations because explosive Stephon Diggs that won down the field, that vanished in the back half of 2023 in Buffalo, right? Like that just Joe Brady took over, and then all of a sudden the Stephon Diggs explosives were gone. Now, the way that he was utilized in Houston to great success before he was hurt. I mean, he was a hyper-targeted slot machine, and that was working. And I think that can work in New England as well. I mean, we've seen Drake May work wonders with much less than, I mean, so let me pose this question to you. Would you rather have Demario Douglas in the slot or Stephon Diggs in the slot?
Well, I think in an open NFL offense, it's not out of the question to have 2 slot receivers in a 4-wide formation. And Stephon Diggs can play the Y very easily, put him in motion, get him on the outside with Demario Douglas in the middle. I think Douglas is the more limited of the two. So if there's going to be any movement across the line, it's going to be Diggs.
That's an excellent point.
Getting lined up, the way you mentioned Calvin Ridley being moved around, Devontae Adams moving around the formation, those kinds of things. I think once wide receivers get to like the 5th or 6th year, I think it's very easy for them to kind of lose a strict definitional position and just become like Swiss Army knife usable.
And that's what I foresee for Stephon Diggs, especially with Josh McDaniels. I think that they have to move him around the formation. We've only seen really Randy Moss win as the X receiver in that offense. Just line a guy up outside and go win. So, you got Josh McDaniels, they're going to have to move him around. They gave him a significant sum of money. So
right.
That's
clear the big tell right there is that he's a primary focus. And the thing that we know about Josh McDaniels is that guy likes choice routes.
Yes.
He likes to put the pressure on the quarterback and the wide receiver to make the right decision at the right time based on the defense look post snap. And I think Drake May is smart enough as a quarterback to be able to do that. I know that Stephon Diggs is smart enough as a wide receiver to be that good. They just have to develop that rapport.
That's it. That is it. We are lockstep in that. I think that Steph definitely adds an element to that offense that they just didn't have before. And if he's not cooked as a vertical receiver, I know Matt Harmon's reception perception said that he just didn't win on those routes, but that's not what Houston was asking him to do. You had Nico Collins to do all the big boy over the top routes. And, whatever happened with Bobby Slowick and how smart he seemed at first, that just fell apart. But I think that Stephon Diggs can do more than what he displayed in 2024, and that's going to bear itself out because Drake May has a howitzer, and he likes to get the ball downfield, and he was doing so with success with Kayshon Boutte and other guys. I can't even remember some of the other guys that were lined up outside making plays because the ball is just literally, it's like defenders on this shoulder, the ball comes right here, and you can't. I mean, you couldn't put it in his face mask. You couldn't stand there and put it in his face mask better than Drake May was delivering some of those passes last year.
Kayshon Boutte, big year in 2025. And not to nail Matt Arm to the cross, but a lot of the route shade on Stephon Diggs did start in Buffalo.
Yes.
Towards the second half of the 2023 season, the hate for Stephon Diggs was a drum.
He legitimately cost people fantasy championships. He was the wide receiver 6 through like 10 weeks. And then he was like the wide receiver 84 for a whole half of the season. So people will never forgive him for stuff like that.
Right.
No matter what.
And this year, all he has to do is fight off Javon Baker. Greinberg is in the comments, and he's bricked up. Let's go.
Hey, we're in cement out, baby. Come find me.
All right. All right. Find Chev at your local Home Depot. All right. And with Greinberg listening, watching, this is a perfect time to bring this story up. You and I found ourselves on one side of a 4-person argument. It was 2-on-2 regarding the Tampa Bay Buccaneers backfield. And at this point, according to Coach Speak and Buccaneers head coach Todd Bowles, Chev, I hate to say it, but you and I lost the battle.
Yeah, we got our butts handed to us.
We won the battle. We lost the war. Okay. Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach Todd Bowles spoke to the media on Tuesday and was asked about the running back hierarchy in Tampa Bay. He made it clear. Now, granted, this is reporting. Shout out to Sam Wise, new addition to the news desk and very well respected member of the fantasy.
At Buy and Sell You, great follow.
Sam Wise is awesome. So this is his language. Bowles was asked about the running back hierarchy. He made it clear that while it is a committee situation, he did not mince words while mentioning the second-year running back, Bucky Irving's name first. Quote, Bucky will be the guy coming in. Rashad will play a ton, 2. Depending on how the game goes is how you rotate and use them. So
this is such a definitive L for both of us.
Right. And also for Rashad White. Yeah. So as I know this is a news show, but as far as dynasty shares are concerned, are you holding the dip of Rashad White? And I think this is one of the things that we talked about with Greinberg and Coach Retzlaff. Are you holding on to those Rashad White shares and the dip, holding through the bottoming out of his stock in hopes that he finds a better situation moving forward?
Yes. I mean, you're talking about one of the best pass catching running backs in the NFL. So the skill set is still there, and let's be real here. He's coming off a career high in efficiency, 4.26 yards a carry, boys. So it's not, we're not cooked. We're in the rotisserie. We're in the rotisserie oven, but we're not cooked. Okay. There's a world where he can go out and he can get a deal like Najee Harris just got, because his skill set is one that you don't have. Everybody needs a pass catching running back that can pass block, and he's better than average on the ground. So it just so happens that he had a jitterbug with a stick of dynamite in his butt behind him, and he had historic efficiency. If you've heard anything that I've talked about with Bucky over the last 60 days on any platform that I've been on, you talk about Bucky Irving going over 1,500 yards from scrimmage on just 50% of the snaps. Only him and Alvin Kamara have done that since Alvin Kamara has been in the league. That's the type of company that he's in. So yes, Rashad White was behind the 8 ball the minute that Bucky Irving got selected there and was awesome. But the saving grace in Dynasty is he's going to be somewhere else next year. And he's going to have a chance. And if something happens to Bucky Irving, which we don't want that. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination, but let's put the factors out there. He is 195 pounds. We did watch him walk with a complete, like a body, just body armor ice after a 30-touch game and have to leave with a concussion the week after that. So there's a world where Rachaad White still can return value as a dynasty asset in 2025. It just is predicated on Bucky Irving not being in the lineup. And then moving forward, he's going into his age 27 season on a new team. So you should probably be trying to parcel that out anyway.
So we're looking at Raheem Mostert circa 2023.
Correct.
Is what I hear you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying, guys. Hey, you heard it here first. 20 touchdowns on the ground for Rachaad White in 2025.
All right, so we're going to play a little game here. This is in reference to an internet argument that I got into, and we all know that if somebody on the internet is wrong, you have to
let them know in the most devastating way possible,
right? Or at least let your partner know that somebody on the internet is wrong. So in this game, the rules are you have to defend my position, so you have to justify what I said.
All right.
All right. Rookie 2025.
I feel like you're about to say an immense amount of bull.
Well, what's funny is that my first thought when you guys in our group chat said fantasy receipts followed you, I was like, uh-oh, because I say some stuff that is just wild. All right. So
all right.
It's all justified. I can back everything up I say, but I'm not always right. All right. So rookie running back 2025 comp to Rachaad White is Quinshon Judkins. Go.
Well, that's God. Why did you do this one? Okay. All right. So Quinshon Judkins was extremely efficient on the ground in 2024 for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I mean, he's been a workhorse. He's never had the pass catching chops that Rachaad White's had, but he did cross the 20 reception threshold. So that's something that you could count on in 2025, depending on the landing spot. Quinshon Judkins profiles as a 3-down back, just like Rachaad White did coming out of Arizona State. He has the requisite size. He's 7 pounds heavier than Rachaad White was coming out of Arizona State. And I think that the versatility of run scheme that Chip Kelly displayed at times at Ohio State lends itself to the versatility that also Rachaad White displayed at Arizona State, because he's not going to be typecast in just being just a zone guy, being just a gap guy. He's going to have success in both in dual types in both styles of run, gap or zone. In Lane Kiffin's offense at Ole Miss, they were in the pistol primarily, and he rushed for 1,500 yards as an 18-year-old true freshman. So with the comp of Rachaad White to Quinshon Judkins, although I don't think that that's the best comp, I could definitely see Quinshon Judkins developing as a pass catcher and having the type of pass volume that Rachaad White's handled in his first 3 seasons, while also being a slightly more efficient on the ground. So yes, I think that Rachaad White the Rachaad White comp could be accurate if we're going to get more volume for Quinshon Judkins in the passing game. And on the ground, I think that that's going to be a smash for Quinshon Judkins as a runner.
And when I made the comp, it was more of running ability. There are differences to parse out. Like you said, Judkins is a little bit heavier, but they have very similar athleticism, even though Judkins is a little bit bigger. And Rachaad White his breakout wasn't as early in his college career as Judkins was. Judkins has been performing the whole time. Rachaad White didn't really until a later breakout. So it was less that and more of like trying to kind of like come to like give Quinshon Judkins a ceiling as far as like Rachaad White has a top 5 fantasy season. And with Quinshon Judkins, being, I want to say, younger in the draft and also having better draft capital than Rachaad White, his opportunity to have multiple top 5 finishes is going to be more than Rachaad White's. Now, my counter to the counter argument, which was Quinshon Judkins never had the receiving chops of Rachaad White, was that just because he didn't doesn't mean that he can't. And my example for that was Josh Jacobs, who never had a lot of pass volume at Alabama, but has had multiple seasons of over 50 catches in the NFL, including with 2 separate teams. And then you look at Antonio Gibson, Cherboy, who was a wide receiver turned running back, who had the receiving chops at the college level and has not repeated that. He hasn't had a 50 catch season in the NFL, even though we know that he has abilities as a receiving back. So I just wanted to kind of run that by you. And
you could have just said, hey, Ken Walker didn't catch passes at Michigan State, and he caught 43 passes last year in limited activity.
Right. And that was one of the things. So going back to the Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet thing, a lot of people were like, oh, well, Zach Charbonnet, he's going to be the receiving back. Well, just because Kenneth Walker didn't catch passes at Michigan State didn't mean that he can't do it at the NFL level. Athletes are athletes. All right.
No, Ryan Grubb unlocked something new. He didn't do a great job with that offense, but he unlocked something with Kenneth Walker. And I'm just terrified that we're looking at another 12-game season. Like he's Pacific Northwest James Conner.
Oh wow. Oof. I had such high hopes for Ryan Grubb.
I mean, he's about the quarterback factory over at the good University of Alabama. So that's cool, I guess. Good for him.
All right. We do have a couple of other stories to get to before we finish. These are some of the latest in the Player Profiler News. Follow us at Player Profiler News Archive, which is at playerprofiler.com/news. And you're obviously already following us on Twitter and all that stuff. But first,
I am proud to announce that Fast Draft now has an all-defense game called D-Up. That's right, fans of IDP finally have a real money best ball game that they can play. No more manually setting up leagues every time you want to do a draft. No. Now you can play for 10 grand, 2,000 to first. Could draft up to 30 teams, all defense. And the best part, balanced scoring, tackles for loss, pass breakups. It all factors in. Just draft 6 defensive players, top 4 into your lineup every week. It's that easy. It's so easy that this isn't just for IDP people. If you love the NFL, then you'll love this game. And for the first time with Fast Draft, you can sweat both sides of the ball on Sunday. So use your host's promo code to get a $25 deposit match, and you'll love this D-Up contest because it's about time we got one.
God, it makes me want to run through a brick wall for Matt Kelly. I'm IDP people. IDP people. I Chev Door love Quinshon like my firstborn son. All right, so our last 3 stories are all going to hit kind of close to home for me. Well, 2 out of the 3. So let's lead off with the first one, and that is Geno Smith secured the bag.
Let's go.
Talked about it on my Raiders show last night. Geno Smith signed a 2-year contract extension, which puts
it's a
him
banger of a show, by the way, bud.
Thank you. It was the end of the 28 season, $33.25 million, $33.25 million per year. So $66.5 million guaranteed with the opportunity to get to 88 something. Geno Smith coming off a year where he had an increase in interceptions, but I want to say he had a career high in yards.
That is correct.
And that is after his 2023 season, which was the last time he was with Pete Carroll, where he was a top 10 quarterback in fantasy. Now he goes to an offense that has some problems on the offensive line. They need to do some things to shore up their interior pass protection. Quarterbacks or running backs, a big question. You're not running out with Raheem Mostert and Sincere McCormick as your starting guys.
Right.
and there is no X receiver. Now, Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers are very good at what they do, and they are going to, lead to quite a big boost for Geno Smith. Another internet argument I got into, somebody pointed out and made sure to let me know, and you can take a stab, not verbally, but in your head, think of who it might have been, saying that Geno Smith was a sell in fantasy because he no longer has DK Metcalf and JSN. And I'm like, have you heard of Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers? Jacoby Myers was 1,000-yard receiver last year. He was pretty close to it, and his yards per game were like increased over the last couple of years. And Brock Bowers is like an all-time generational receiver playing at the tight end position, and they're going to go out and they're going to spend first or second round draft capital on a wide receiver, period. They're going to be in the range to grab one of the guys in the top 4 or 5 in Trey Harris, Jaden Higgins, somebody like that, who's going to be able to take that volume and possibly run a similar route tree to DK Metcalf while he's got 2 JSNs working underneath. Okay, so I'm not scared of Geno Smith, and I'm not scared of what he brings to the Raiders table. I think it's going to be a good thing. He doesn't have a whole lot of tread on his tires. He's a very savvy veteran, and that's the Raiders'
great mobility.
Yeah, he had over 200 yards rushing last year, which it's not your Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels level, but it's escapability and it's better than what the Raiders have seen the last 50 years.
I mean, talk about it.
Or since Terrell Pryor, let's just say most mobile quarterback they've had since Terrell Pryor.
So, I mean, the thing that I think happens here is that you take a wide receiver at 6, most likely. And then there's this monster of a human being from William and Mary, this offensive tackle that Brett Coleman's the only Brett Coleman and a couple other guys are starting to steam him up a little bit. And I think that's probably the pick at 37. If you need to shore up, because I forget his name. Hold on. Give me 2 seconds while I go back to this video. But Brett Coleman is talking about players that nobody's talking about. And it is dastardly what this young man is about. Charles Grant. I wanted to say Charles Cross, but that's the tackle from the Seahawks. Charles Grant is 6'7", 330. He had 35.5-inch arms. And watching some of the cut-ups that Coleman put on this video, Brett Coleman, incredible follow for NFL draft content and just actual football breakdowns. Phenomenal follow. Hashtag not a sponsor. But that's the guy I think that you guys go after at 37 to kind of help shore up some of the offensive line issues. So in that range, I was thinking about, I was trying to piece together what it looks like for teams in that top 5 to 7 range. So that's me, that's Schultze, that's you, right? So Titans, Jags, Raiders. Trying to figure out what that looks like with that pick range. So I've got 1 and 35. You got 6 and 37, and Schultze's got 5 and 36. Right. So I was just looking at those first 2 round picks, and I was like, man, I don't think if you let him go at 37, I don't think he's going to be there much longer because he's a behemoth of a human being. He's like Trent Brown if Trent Brown, decided to do Atkins or something like that.
So say at 37, Gray Zabel has fallen.
Gray Zabel over this guy easily.
Now there's another guy.
I don't think Gray Zabel is going to fall that far. Is the problem?
I don't either, but I'm hoping. I convinced myself last night that I'm okay with Genty at 106, even though.
Are you? This is a development. We haven't. Jury duty has kept us from talking ball for a while.
He's generational analytically, and that he did some things like he had the second highest bad box percentage in all of college football last year behind Caleb Johnson, and still did what he did. which was around 40% missed tackle percentage. Like,
I mean, 151 missed tackles is outlandish.
Yeah, and if there's anything we know about the Raiders' offensive line last year, it's that you need a running back who's going to be able to make people miss, because an historic bottom 10 of yards before contact, you need a guy who knows what he's doing.
Well, I mean, team versatility too. He was, he had a lot of success in gap and zone runs, if I'm not mistaken, per PFF. So,
yeah,
and then you got Chip Kelly, who the one thing that he did well in his 4 years as a play caller in the NFL is run the damn ball. We know that that's part of what's going to be a staple in the offense. Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, they're going to get together, they're going to cross swords, and they're going to say, we're going to establish it.
Now, I do like the two-pronged approach, because I hate drafting running backs in the first round in the NFL, especially in the top 10. And I think I have a feeling John Spytek is just as averse to that as I am, which means that it's likely that if he finds his offensive lineman in the first 6, he's going to do that. There are plenty of guys at the wide receiver position who will excel, running back position who will excel, who are going to be available later on. So if
let me ask you this: How do you feel about the offensive lineman or receiver at 6, and then pairing up one of the Ohio State guys or Jaden Higgins at 37?
Oh, if we go Membo Higgins, you're going to find me in the Home Depot. All right. And Jamie said, didn't see a Raider show last night. Usually get notifications. Make sure that you are subscribed to Uncovered, not Undroppables, because we have made that switch.
Yeah, watch the Titan show, Jamie.
Yeah.
What's up with
Jamie. The other guy, and this is going to lead me into the next. Well, okay. The last story that we're going to talk about is relative to this. There was a pro day on Monday at Sacramento State University, just a short 25-minute drive from here. And there was an offensive lineman there who I did see at the Senior Bowl that I was very impressed with, got to interview and everything. His name is Jackson Slater. And apparently the Raiders were very impressed with him at the pro day and interviewed him and met with him and stuff. He's going to be a day 2, day 3 guy, but is big and has the ability to step in. They need to see some more from DJ Glaze, who came in as a not great at run blocking type of right tackle, and he showed pretty good ability in pass blocking last year. They do need to just shore up things on that offensive line, but I think moving on from Andre James was the first step in that. All right, so the next story is, and penultimate, is going to be Trey McBride. Trey McBride signed an extension with the Arizona Cardinals. He's the highest paid tight end in the history of the NFL. 4-year deal worth $76 million, $43 million guaranteed. He's 25 years old. He's been a juggernaut the last 2 seasons. Shout out Blake Satchel, aka Black K. Blake Satchel, Stachel, Block A, got it. Block A, Stachel. Brock Bowers is being selected a full round ahead of McBride in both dynasty and redraft, as he should be. The Cardinals tight end is the better value. That's true too. McBride commanded a league leading 29.3% target share with check down merchant Kevin Hart. I mean Kyler Murray. While both options are very comfortable picks in the early rounds, McBride's established chemistry with his quarterback makes him a stable option. Right or wrong, the top 2 dynasty tight ends are in order: Brock Bowers 1, Trey McBride 2.
I think we're having a very different conversation if Trey McBride didn't run generationally bad on touchdowns last year.
That's a very good point, except for the stickiness of touchdowns and the lack of predictability with touchdowns. Now, we all fell victim in 2022 and 2023, waiting on Pat Freiermuth's positive touchdown regression, right?
Right. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like he had 4 total touchdowns. 1 was a fumble recovery, and one was a jet sweep or a handoff. So we're talking 2 receiving touchdowns on 138 targets. So that alone would tell me that he's due for some. Hey, I haven't said in a while. He's due.
He's due. You
He's
know who
due
else
for
is
some more
due?
touchdowns.
I lost $1,600 on Underdog because of Kyler Murray's interception on that second Trey McBride touchdown.
Yeah. So one, betting on Kyler Murray, there is a 1-800 helpline, and it's
I was
not.
betting on Trey McBride, and I almost had the 2 touchdowns.
Oh,
Only Kyler Murray threw the interception.
Oh, this is a good point. I'm glad that you brought that up. It just flashed into my brain. He also dropped an alarming amount of touchdowns in 2024, to the point where I went and looked up every single red zone target on NFL Pro, which if you don't have it, that is an incredible investment. Incredible investment to go vet things that you think you see. Anyway, I went and looked. He dropped at least 4 end zone targets. And that's not including the times where Kyler Murray was just too short to see over the line to get him the football. So I'm fine with the fact that Brock Bowers is tight end 1. He is what we thought he was. He's a generational talent that'll go down in the vein of Antonio Gates and Travis Kelce and Tony Gonzalez. That's what Brock Bowers is. But Trey McBride is also that.
Right. No, I will not argue that whatsoever. He was talked about leading into 2024 as 2024's tight end 1 before Brock Bowers hit the scene. And if somebody came to me and said that they had McBride higher than Bowers, I wouldn't argue with them. I wouldn't try and tell them that they're wrong. And in fact, what Bloquet said in that news blurb was that McBride is a better value. And that's 100% true because their numbers are going to be very similar. They're not going to be so different that it's going to hurt you a whole lot. And if you pass on Bowers, you have the opportunity to take a wide receiver 1 and then get similar production later on. And as you know, from being on shows with me, that's my MO. Like fade the steam and grab the value.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that process is correct 10 out of 10 times without question, without quarrel, without any sort of equivocation. I'm passing on Brock Bowers in the first round of startups, in the first round of in best ball, in any format. I'm going to bypass Brock Bowers 9 times out of 10 and just wait like 9 picks later and take Trey McBride.
We got a David Njoku fan in the house.
I mean,
I screwed up when we did our rookie or our startup mock draft on Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
When I was going into the sleeper app to pick the pick that I was picking from, and I picked the 101, in my brain, I told myself, I'm going to blow everybody's mind and take Brock Bowers first. Somehow between that point and when we started the draft, I forgot about that and then made my case for Jaden Daniels at the 101. But I was going to.
That's incredible. That's
going to take Brock Bowers.
We're finding out about this in real time.
I guarantee you that if Brock Bowers had been drafted by the Tennessee Titans in 2024, you would be taking him in the first round this year.
It would be really difficult to turn off my fan brain and say, don't do this. But yeah, you're probably right.
Right.
It would be really, if he was in Tennessee, it'd be really difficult for me to be like, yeah, him and Cam Ward would be, I might legally change my name to Brock Bowers Cam Ward 2025.
So part of my big 2024 rookie draft in my home league, I got Bowers, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Jalen McMillan, and I changed my team name to Broleek McBowbers. So maybe if the Raiders win the Super Bowl this year, I will change my legal name to that. All right. Speaking of fan picks, I'm going to talk about this guy. I've talked about him on every show that I've ever done. Where did that go?
If it is not Double L, I'm going to be really upset.
It absolutely is. Okay. So I want to let everybody know that if you have not heard the name Lan Larison, LANLARISON, before, I want you to go to at profiler_now, which is our Player Profiler News Twitter feed, and go through and find the graphic that I made of, and it's on the thumbnail for this one too. It's a man hurdling another man and basically taking away his gender, stealing it from him. Lan Larison is a running back from the UC Davis Aggies. He is from Idaho. He was recruited as a quarterback, went to an FCS school. Last year had 1,465 yards rushing and over 800 yards receiving and 23, I want to say, total touchdowns. If you watch his film, and the article that I posted links to a reel of Lan Larison highlights. He's hurdling guys, not just one. This isn't like Saquon Barkley doing the reverse hurdle on the guy, and that's all she wrote. He is hurdling multiple players on multiple plays, not multiple players on a single play, but he does it on more than one occasion. On top of that, there are numerous one-handed catches on bad balls from his FCS quarterback. The dude is an absolute talent. Got hurt in the FCS playoffs. Otherwise, everybody would be talking about him, and he's started to get steamed up in the last couple of weeks. So he is, as of today, when I was in Fast Draft, he was tied for first in ADP risers because I dropped the blurb about him yesterday, and there have been some people talking about him. He had his pro day on Monday, and he ran a 4.46, which would put him at 5th in the 40 time among running backs. But what you look for a later round guy, a day 3 guy, is the ability to get involved in pass protection. And he bench pressed 21 reps, which was second in the running back class. He is strong. He's got a great upper body. He's got a solid base, and he does pass pro well. On top of that, he had what would have been the second fastest shuttle time among all running backs at the combine. So he's strong, he's big, he can catch, he's fast, and he's quick. Ball knowers know the difference between.
This is the guy you should have pumped to Rachaad White, buddy.
Sure, yeah. And if he had gotten like a 5th-year senior at the FBS level, he likely could have been that dude coming out. I was corrected by Lan's dad last night. In my blurb, I said that he was 24. He's going to turn 24 this season. I said his draft age was 24. His draft age is 23. The reason for that is because he was a quarterback that converted to running back. He had a guy named Alonzo Gilliam in front of him. But the last 2 years at UC Davis, the 2 years where he was the primary running back, he literally led the team to the FCS playoffs essentially on his own back. And everybody go out there, find yourself some Lan Larison, play Lan Larison in the Origins drafts, wait for him to hit sleeper. He's going to be a guy, let's say Dylan Laube, but better. So everybody knows this is what Laube got last year.
Way better.
Larison blows Laube out of the water. And
it's not close. Now, I was trolling bigz about this because I was like, okay, yeah, Homer guy, but once you watch him play football, you understand why he's saying these things. And I am in total agreement. That's why I said if you're gonna talk about somebody other than Double L Lan Larison, also if you say something positive about Lan Larison, his father will like and retweet it.
Yeah,
and I find that to be absolutely fantastic. So anytime I get a chance to say something cool about Lan Larison, I absolutely do it because his dad will retweet it.
His dad got in my DMs last night. He was like, thank you for like pumping him up, and let's hope he gets drafted, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you got to be very proud. Your kid is absolutely disgustingly good. I've been watching UC Davis football for almost all my life. I have watched UC Davis put players in the NFL, mostly in the 80s with Ken O'Brien, Bo Eason, Mike Wise. Lan Larison is by far the best football player that's ever played for the Aggies. And I can say that with Lan Larison comp is Tyrone Tracy. That's a very, very good comp. Except that
he's
Larison
a
is
better
better
runner.
as a running back.
Yeah, he's a much better runner. And I know you're going to say, well, one guy did it at Purdue and one guy did it at UC Davis. I don't care.
Right. Yeah, watch the film. There was a run he made in, I think it was in the first week of the playoffs in the FCS playoff this year, where he had the ball in the open field. There was one defender between him and the end zone, and he just did like a little hip shake, and the guy fell down.
Like, so again, we have to factor in the exciting factor, and that's probably what's suppressing him a little bit. But I would put him up there. I mean, a lot of people have talked about, here's the thing. We're getting this discount, in my opinion, because he didn't go to the Senior Bowl. If he goes to the Senior Bowl,
right,
and he's healthy, they're like, the discount's probably over.
Right, and that was the thing. So he had what was called tightrope surgery, which is laparoscopic surgery, where they don't cut into and go in and repair. They use tools, digging holes, drilling holes to repair the ligament or whatever. So he came off of that in, I want to say, January.
Mm-hmm.
By the time March 30, so 2.5 months of recovery, and he's running a 4.46. If he doesn't sprain his ankle in that FCS game, what does he run on March 31st? Probably faster than a 4.46. On top of that, and that's why one of the reasons I looked at combine results, especially with his shuttle, his vert was 10 feet, not basal Tootin, but it was still 10 feet.
Broad jump, you mean?
Yeah, his broad jump was 10 feet. His vert was like 35. So in that upper echelon, he had a 9.63 RAS score. That's what would have been fifth among running backs. So if this dude goes to the combine and he's on TV and Daniel Jeremiah is talking about him, and he's right there in the, like, athletically in the top 5 or 6 running backs in this class, good Lord. And you're going to be able to get him in the 25 range.
I can't remember there's somebody that comped it that said he had some of the best hands in the class, and I think I tagged you in it on Twitter. Yeah, he was saying the best pass catching running backs in the draft, and one of the guys that he mentioned was Land Larison, and I think I tagged you in it, and I think his dad immediately liked it when I did.
Yeah,
so I'm not kidding. I really do get a kick out of it whenever his dad retweets and reposts stuff. Like, as a kid, as a former athlete, who my son is now starting to, like, I'm going to be that guy too. So I completely appreciate that.
Yeah. And I mean, I was that way with my kids. I had designs on them, like, going to higher levels, but the levels that they achieved, I'm so proud of. And they didn't even sniff getting scouted for the NFL. So I can understand how that feels. And so a lot of times I'll watch when they show parents at games, it hits me, because I'm like, man, I know how that feels.
Yeah, it's incredible. So, yeah, I'm big Land Larison guy. I have converted to the Church of Land Larison, House of Larison, first of his name, King of the Andals and the First Men.
And that mustache. Also, and we have one last thing. GXRP. Sanders is going to New York. Book it. He's going to Cleveland, baby. All right, that's going to do it for us. I got to get to work. I'm 18 minutes late.
Oh my God, bigz. I thought you didn't have to work.
No. The jury trial was dismissed yesterday. They dropped the charges. And
yeah, no, I thought maybe you didn't have to work today since we're on 20 minutes over.
No, so, I was supposed to, like, get out of jury duty and drive straight there to work, but instead I got to do the show, and that's better for me. So we'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to watch Dynasty Stock Market on Tuesday morning. I'll be back with Alex, and thank you guys for watching.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.